The courtroom was more crowded than ever before. This time, word had spread like wildfire. The plaintiff was not seated in Bambi's place. It was she who was on trial. After standing tall with her truth, the woman was now accused of crossing. The distinction between television and drama and actual violence. The assault on TashaK was partially captured on a surveillance video from backstage and was muttered had ultimately caused everything to collapse in every sector of the industry. There were campers outside of Fulton. Tension was icy inside. The county courthouse, which had been displaying banners that said, "Justice for the truth teller," and Bambi broke the script, since morning. With his legal team at his sides, Scrappy sat close to the rear, dodging all the cameras and avoiding eye contact with the lady he phoned his wife once. His name wasn't on the docket for once. For once, he wasn't the bad guy. The bailiff's voice echoed as the court clerk shouted for order. Georgia versus Adicia Benson, well known as Bambi. As Bambi got up from her chair, all eyes in the room turned. She had a hard jaw, her hair pushed back, and minimum makeup. No gloss or lashes, just resolve and weariness in her eyes. There was no time wasted by the prosecution. TashaK was summoned as the initial witness. As she approached the platform, her gait moving more slowly than normal and her wrist still wearing a compression bandage from the assault. Her black and white outfit served as a warning, a contrast, and a message. She, without flinching, he swore in. The prosecutor spoke in a cool but forceful tone. "Could you explain what transpired on the night of the reunion photo shoot?" Tasha made no hesitation. "I was backstage, going over my section notes. I was already a witness. I had fulfilled my destiny, talk about what the production has done to Bambi and other people. However, when I rounded the bend, she was awaiting my arrival. She remained silent. She simply lunged. There were murmurs throughout the space. Fanitsday. Group protested, saying it was embellished. Without admiration, the judge a glance silenced them. The prosecutor went on. "We have the footage. May we present it to the jury?" The judge asked, nodding. The screen sprang to life as the lights faded. It wasn't a dramatic clip. No music, sound, or editing techniques. Just unprocessed, grayscale surveillance film of before security took Tasha away. Bambi grabbed her arm, slapped the phone out of her fingers, and screamed something incomprehensible. The gasps came instantly. There was a louder hush after that. Bambi sat with a stony look. She didn't dispute it. She didn't recoil. They didn't dispute the recording when her attorney arrived. They debated the cause. It was more than Ms. Benson could handle. According to her defense, she just discovered that TashaK had altered her private medical records in addition to leaking them, humiliating her while filming. There isn't an attack going on. This is a tipping moment. The story might settle. First, though, TashaK spoke once more, not as a victim, but as a reporter. "Neither did I influence anything, nor did I unjustly leak anything. She is furious over a DNA file that wasn't authentic." There was silence in the room. The prosecutor blinked. "Please pardon me." TashaK gave a nod. "Since we're all here under oath, I was going to reserve this for the documentary. That particular file, the one which said that during filming, Scrappy had gotten Bambi pregnant. Production had created it. Bambi gave me permission to just reveal it." The magistrate bent forward. "Do you mean that the pregnancy plot was fabricated?" TashaK turned back to the court after giving Bambi a quick glance. "Not acted out. From nothing. Never was ever a test or a baby, only a plot that aims to tip the sympathy scale." Scrappy roused for the first time after he began to receive heat online. His face was unreadable for the first time. Chaos broke out in the courtroom. Reporters rushed to get quotes. The jurors appeared to be rattled. Silence was ordered by the judge. The lawyer for Bambi rushed to take charge of the story. Disapproval. The original evidence presented for this did not include this. Trial. "If I don't reveal it now, it's perjury." Tasha interrupted. "Do you want the truth? What I'm providing is that." She wasn't defending her tranquility. She was shielding a falsehood. And she struck me when I revealed it. Even if the court ordered a recess, the harm was already done. Hands in his pockets, Scrappy went outside with his attorney. Pockets, lowering your head. His every action, every sigh, every blink was captured on video. When reporters yelled questions, he said, Nothing. The update that changed everything then arrived. The court was thinking about alleviating, dismissive of any legal accountability related to the fictitious pregnancy aspect. He had submitted a petition claiming that he was not aware the plot was entirely made up and that the producers had informed him that it was based on confidential health information that Bambi provided on her own. If allowed, he would go unharmed and exonerated of all responsibility for the falsehood that had ruined his reputation and defined a season. Scrappy was summoned to the stand when the court reconvened, not as a witness, but as a defendant. His sentences were measured, and his expression was taut. I didn't recognize that it was a phony. She informed me that she had completed an exam and was awaiting the results. Producers began to probe it. Then it exploded. I assumed it was genuine. I was unaware until Tasha dropped the file, which only had a Word doc and a few faked tears, not even a test. The prosecutor bent closer. Additionally, how did you feel when you learned? As if my life had been taken over for a narrative twist, Scrappy let out a sigh. For example, my child's mother allowed me to walk into a fire in order to protect her own reputation. I was having trouble breathing while I learned. Once more, I felt like I was being played. Bambi tightened her mouth and turned aside. Behind her, her colleagues muttered frantically. TashaK sat still, her face inscrutable. The judge gave a slow nod, then declared a little break before to the cross-dash test. Anarchy broke out in the corridor. Supporters let up a yell. Real time? Blog headline refreshes. 1. It backfires when you read Bambi's baby bombshell. Scrappy gets away with it. As the grading system is revealed in real time, another TashaK is defended. In the courtroom. After reviewing the revised motion inside, the judge formally declared it official when the court met again. In light of the recently presented testimony and facts, the court acknowledges that Mr. Richardson was not informed of the pregnancy, deception, plot, and will no longer be responsible for any subsequent media or defamatory manipulation. It is decided to drop the accusations against Mr. Richardson. The space came out in sporadic breaths. Bambi's fists tightened like steel on the chair's arms, but she didn't blink. This was no longer merely a trial. It was a takedown. It had never felt colder in the courtroom. Following the judge's dismissal of the charges, the atmosphere completely changed, against Scrappy. And the air had a fog-like quality to it. The person with empathy. The looks Bambi had gotten from the jurors were vanished. Curiosity, mistrust, and judgment were all that were left. With a written transcript from the most recent reunion tape in hand, the prosecutor stood once again. They'll eat this up, you told the producers, Ms. Benson, according to the record. The words hung in the air like smoke. Just let me cry and talk about the baby. Bambi squirmed uneasily in her chair, her fingers twitching and her lips squeezed. Together. The judge accepted the transcript notwithstanding the lawyer's objections over its applicability. In addition to assessing the attack, this court is also considering the reasons behind it. If Ms. Benson used emotional blackmail to gain sympathy from the public and then resorted to violence once the ploy didn't work, that encompasses both the situation and the outcome. There were no more protests after the gavel struck once. Next, the prosecution made a call. Former junior producer Tamika took the stage. Her voice was tremulous at first, but she was determined. I worked on the Season 12 plot development team. I was in charge of field and scheduling. Notes. I once heard Ms. Benson and 2 older citizens on a planning call. Manufacturers. They were generating ideas on how to change public perception. Ms. Benson claimed that bringing up motherhood was the only way to win sympathy. Furthermore, what did they choose to do? The prosecutor inquired. After hesitating, up against Ms. Benson? Spice hesitated. No, since I was aware that it wasn't just her. It was the check, the machine, and the network. However, the moment she struck Tasha over it, that was individual. It was ego. Her tone was as sharp as ice. The voice was cold. The jurors frantically scrawled notes. Even the judge now had a concerned expression. TashaK was given the opportunity to testify one last time at that point. It's cross-ex time. Bambi was rattled by her lawyer. Freeman, Ms. You have a reputation for creating drama on the internet, and your posts are frequently provocative, overblown, and even defamatory. Isn't that right? Tasha grinned. Even yet, we're in court because of something I said that's shown to be accurate. Everyone in the room laughed. The judge even made a grin grudgingly. Tasha went on to explain the distinction between journalism and defamation. I always save mine, and so do the receipts. Once more, she held out her binder. It was the trial edition this time. Ms. Freeman, did you harbor personal animosity toward Ms. Benson? Tasha nodded as the lawyer pressed her. Yes, but, she said, after hitting me. I feared she was being played, therefore I shared that DNA file in order to protect her before that. Even the defense was hushed by her admission. I had no idea she was fooling us. Scrappy was spotted later that day making a brief statement to the media outside the courthouse. He didn't exult or gloat. His voice broke as he said, "All I want right now is serenity. Without cameras, without scripts, and without worrying about being exploited again, I want to be a father." The media barraged him with inquiries about Bambi, but he remained mute and left. Although it appeared that his role in the drama was officially finished, Bambi's was simply becoming worse. That night, court continued for the presentation of the last evidence. Tamika turned in a hard drive with uncut confessionals and raw video that revealed Bambi debating plot direction with producers, practicing lines and requesting retakes when she didn't seem broken enough in certain recent footage. There was no more denying it, no more twisting it, weeks before to the attack on TashaK. The prosecution took a break. The courtroom, exhausted from the strain of previously revealed, was fired for the day, but there was mayhem outside. Chanted, fans quarreled, and Bambi's blog live broadcasts were a phony. Twitter went ablaze as it received over 1 million views in only 3 hours. At the same time, Scrappy cleared, and Bambi Entreel trended. Hulu released a trailer for the second installment of Broken for ratings, with a new tagline as the plot flips on its head. TashaK's voice said, "She hit me because I wouldn't lie with her," as the teaser came to a close. That's the reality. And that evening in her hotel suite, the reality struck her once more. Without a team, staff, or fans supporting her at DMIs, Bambi sat by herself with a legal pad and a decision. When the court met again tomorrow, the question was not whether she would lose, but rather how badly. Everyone sensed that something irrevocable was going to happen when the trial's last day arrived like a storm warning. They just had no idea how noisy it would be. Live broadcasts and media vehicles ringed the courthouse, stream settings. 3 blocks down, the crowd. The excitement within was dense, almost religious. It was off limits to cameras, but it made no difference. Fans shared countdown clocks on social media as if it were the conclusion of a reality show, and the entire world was already watching. However, this was no longer a script. It was justice, or at least the tangled emotional side of it. Bambi looked different when she walked into the courtroom. No glitz, no. She sat quietly next to her lawyer, eyes down, with quivering hands, a tan coat, and earrings. TashaK, who had a little cut on her wrist that was still mending, and her binder on her lap, appeared calm across the room. And behind her, in the second row, sat a man with low, inscrutable eyes, no chain, and black clothing. The judge and the bailiff summoned. Order. Arrived holding a folder, and we are ready to proceed with the sentence and concluding remarks. Suggestions. He spoke coolly, but his composure was short-lived. The prosecution stood up. Not only was there an attack, the lawyer started, but there was also a pattern and a deliberate strategy to control. Public opinion, use compassion as a weapon, and when that didn't work, turn to violence. Ms. Benson then made up a pregnancy for she attacked a journalist to prevent publicity, and she allowed her to. The lines struck a deep chord. Co-parent, be defamed, slandered, and nearly destroyed to preserve her version of the story. Neither Bambi nor the jury moved, and she simply looked straight ahead as if she had lost her sense of self. Then the defense began. Yes, my client made mistakes. She did respond badly, but she was coerced by producers, a poisonous system, and years of coercion, to stage tragedy for amusement. The court had to take into account not only what she did, but also the setting that Ms. Benson was not the architect who made it possible for them. Some jurors nodded, while others remained stony-faced. She was a product. After a lengthy silence, and a whisper to her attorney, the judge asked Bambi if she wanted to speak. Then she gently stood up, speaking in a steady but little voice. I lost myself attempting to fit the show's expectations. I got rewarded when I broke and applauded when I sobbed. I believed that if I had control over the tale, I would also have control over the agony. I simply buried it deeper, and I lost my temper when Tasha brought it up. She turned to TashaK. I apologize, not because she was wrong, but because she was right. I should have thanked you for speaking the truth that I was too afraid to confront. But instead, I made you the enemy because of what you revealed. There was stillness, no gasps or cheers, and then sentence. Before speaking, the judge inhaled deeply. This court recognizes the intricacy of this scenario, the hazy distinctions between television and reality, between person and character, yet we still need to react to the facts. He hesitated. Miss Benson, you are now given a 120-day sentence of 200 hours of community service centered on media ethics and emotional abuse awareness, a year of probation, house arrest, and a court-mandated public. Bambi apologized to Ms. Freeman and nodded a little, finally feeling the weight of it all, scraping on her shoulders like bricks. Scrappy averted his gaze, but the play continued. As the court was adjourned, the court granted TashaK's request to stand and address the room, and she stepped. I wasn't going to show this, he added, stepping forward with a binder. But let's finish it because the show is ended, don't we? She took a little flash drive with the labels, Season 12, cut scenes, emergency room, hidden mics, Scrappy's, breakdown, out of her bag. She gave it to the court clerk. I'm giving the Hulu documentary all of my unreleased material. Team, the courtroom. Hummed once again. No cuts, edits, or scripts, just the reality. As she departed, she was surrounded by reporters, but she didn't pause to talk, putting on her sunglasses and saying merely one phrase to the cameras. It was required, not personal. She disappeared into the crowd, and Scrappy, who was near the exit, did not follow her. He remained still for paused, then turned to go. For he wasn't for the first time in years taking part. He wasn't trying to find a scene. All he was doing was breathing. Social media exploded that evening. Clips from the trial went viral all across the world. Bambi, Tasha, Scrappy freed sentenced. And the announcement followed. Hulu possessed for ratings. It was formally approved but broken. The storylines break down in Part 2. TashaK narrates and features previously unreleased confessional video. At midnight, a trailer was released. The last clip. Bambi reading by herself from a statement ordered by the court. I allowed TV to influence my reality. I made decisions based on fear, but my future will not be shaped by shame. Although the remarks were harsh, the opinions breaking records. A dot. The last scene. Sitting on a terrace, TashaK, a glass of wine in hand, binder closed. Gazing into the camera, she says, they attempted to paint me as the antagonist for revealing the edit, but I'm the edit. And I wrote the conclusion. This time, become black. It was shown on television, and the wound was rather deep.